Hello everyone and welcome to Avantika Designeering series or ADS as we like to call it. Every week on Wednesday, we feature design and technology leaders who share their professional journey, their thoughts on their domain of work, and designeering where the world of design and engineering meet. Make sure you follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And with that, let's continue with your show.
In the utter chaos of information, products, and services, designing something unique and relevant can be a pretty daunting task. To overcome the challenges faced in the process, designers need to empathize with the users and understand the root of the problem they aim to solve. Along with empathy, a good sense of storytelling on the designer's part can help get the user emotionally more invested with the product. But how can designers implement empathetic storytelling practices while interacting with the users to understand the problem on a deeper level? To know more about this theme, in this episode, we interact with Azmina Poddar, Design Studio Head, APAC at Boston Consulting Group. With over 2 decades of experience ranging from design consulting, design strategy, and visual communication, she has held positions such as Director of Visual and Branding and Creative Head of several enterprising design studios. And that's why, on our journey of discovering designeering, we talked to her about endearing empathy. Hey, hello Azmina. Welcome to Avantika Designeering podcast series. It's an honor and pleasure to host you on our show today.
Thank you, Rohit. I would say it's an honor for me also to be here today with the team. And thank you for having this podcast.
Super. So, as our ice breaking question,
Hmm.
through their clients and their customers, designers like you have a unique relationship. You listen to each other and figure out what the customer really wants. How do you develop trust, empathy, integrity, and consumer communication to ensure that everyone is unified in the task of improving the experience?
So, as you rightly said, trust. Trust is a very important factor as a designer to establish between clients and customers. Yeah, and this trust does not come with over like I've been just listening to them or I'm delivering to their deadlines. It comes through active listening and it comes through actually establishing that relationship. And I would say, as a designer, you have to keep it real. You cannot give them industry jargons. You cannot give them, oh, you do not know, and I'll let you know, or I'll teach you. It's more like a shared journey between your clients and customers. And it is that relationship which you build over the time while working on a project or while developing a product. And that is what the key crux is about having that communication between your clients and customers.
Wow, that's beautifully and well put by you, Azmina. In fact, moving forward, having more than 2 decades of experience in design consultancy, design planning, and visual communication, you've also held positions such as visual and branding management and creative head of many enterprising design studios. The question that I have for you is, can you take us through your professional journey?
Absolutely. So I would say at heart and at my education, I'm an artist. Okay, I graduated from JJ School of Fine Art, and it was all about painting canvases. But soon, I would say at that time, technology was catching up. There were computers all around us, and there were these little classes which were springing up with design in it. Okay, and the design bug caught me, and I realized that art was all about asking questions, but design was all about giving answers. And I like giving answers rather than provoking people with questions. So I shifted more towards design and technology rather than art. Okay, and I would say that my career has been it's been varied. I would say I started with painting, movie editing, then I got into branding, then I got into space design, I got into technology, user experience, and today I'm leading design studios. So I would say it was always trying to keep abreast with technology and what's happening new in the world. Yeah, so I always felt like I always saw what's coming up new and I always tried to catch up. And that's what I did. I tried to do the catch up game.
Well, that's really beautifully put by you. In fact, you know, what was beautiful to see is that you've had this varied kind of experience, really interesting and different things done, which are not necessarily connected with each other, and that's woven into something which is so beautiful. In fact, you've also been an entrepreneur in past in your career. How has the experience of being an entrepreneur shaped your career and you as a professional itself?
Yeah, so I would say being an entrepreneur was very, very interesting and it was very exciting. Like everybody wants to feel like, oh, like I was an entrepreneur before the startup world. So that was a time when you felt, oh, I want to do something of my own and I don't want to listen to clients. I don't want to listen to my bosses. Let me do and come up with my own studio. So that's exactly what I did. I came up with my studio. And then I realized that the two answers which we always try to figure out, as designers, that the client is always right and the deadline is yesterday. Yeah. And as entrepreneur, I realized that yes, the client is always right and the deadline is always yesterday. So to be very honest, I would say that as an entrepreneur, I understood the business side of the design part of it, as to why and how the client wants it in a particular way. Or actually, the client is equally passionate than when he's asking for a product or a service. So you have to listen to your client and you have to make sure that the person is putting money on the table, and you need to try and reason it out with them rather than saying, oh, you probably don't know, or like, I know better. But trust me, as an entrepreneur, I learned how businesses work, how money is churned, and how you put those salaries on table. And for that, trust me, you sometimes have to do odd jobs also, and every time you do not have an Oscar nominated project. So I would say being an entrepreneur made it real for me as a designer, and I try to understand the business side of it and why the client is always asking for things, because they're equally passionate about the product. Probably they might not know what's good for them, but they're really, really passionate about it, and you have to ride that passion wave with them.
Wow, that's an interesting thought process. In fact, Azmina, I've been curious about something right since the time we decided to do this podcast. And,
Hmm.
for someone like me who's come from the management background, for me, I've studied the BCG matrix in my B school, and I've always seen it as a business consulting company. Where does Design Studio come in picture, and can you share with us more about the Design Studio and what does your team really execute at BCG?
So I would say definitely I cannot divulge a lot of things what Design Studio does because of the IP and the security reasons. But I can definitely give you an overview of what Design Studios does in BCG. So I would say this is Design Studios are pretty nascent. It's a new idea within BCG. I would say we're just a year and a half old. Theoretically or practically, we started 3 years back, but that was just the germination of an idea, and these design studios basically cater to all the design thought partnership that is required in BCG. So ideally, we would say like in the design studio, we have all the 360 degrees approach to design, which is we start from the basic PPTs to videos to digital to augmented experiences to data visualization and storytelling. And at the heart of it is that we are the design partners for our BCG consultants, and we help them with impactful storytelling, and these storytelling abilities actually help the case teams to go with their stories to our clients. So we say that definitely we come with various different industry experiences. Also, we have UX design, we have digital, we have plain graphic, all of that. And I feel that it is all about the art of storytelling and giving that impactful story to your clients. And for that, definitely you need all the facets of design. And that's the reason we've just started with design studios.
Wow, this sounds really interesting. In fact, it sounds like the entire thing coming full circle, where you understand the business, you understand the challenges, you consult clients in terms of how to what really is the problem, and with maybe a design studio, you're also trying to address the how part of it. Am I right?
Absolutely. So that's exactly where it's like we Sometimes I remember, like in my past organization, it was all very theoretical, or probably it was just in the PPT. But now we have live demos, we have live prototypes, we have live experiences to give them. And that's exactly where you make the story come alive for your clients, and then giving them that first hand experience.
Super. And while you were talking about, pitching to clients and giving them presentation, my next question comes from the entire concept of storytelling. In fact, storytelling is a key characteristic of a strong designer. It is deeply rooted in structure, rhythm, and emotion, however, varies dramatically in personal style. The question that I have for you is, how can we use storytelling to articulate the expression of design decisions and values to our consumers or the stakeholders?
Yeah, so as you rightly called it out, storytelling is the solution of every design solution, I would say. And if it's peppered with empathy, it's one of the best phenomena that could come out. Okay, I'll give you a great example where storytelling absolutely took a different form in one of our pitches. This was one in my past organization where we had a very high-end client come in, and we had a team working day and night for a presentation. And in that presentation, we were supposed to call out pain points and show the customer journey and then show the solution. And it was almost like midnight, and the team comes to me and says, Azmina, tomorrow morning we have this presentation and we're running out of time. We really don't have the time to create any journey maps, visual journey maps, or create any presentation. How do we go about doing this with the client? Because we were just busy making a lot of other things and we forgot the story, and forgot the customer journey. And that's exactly where I said, okay, fine, we know what the customer journey is, we know what the pain point is. Let's just dramatize it. And trust me, in the boardroom, we had like, I would say, like a 50 odd people sitting there. And we had this entire team go out and enact the story. Okay. Enact the entire customer journey, highlighting the pain points and then showing the solution. Trust me, that was the day, I would say, the entire organization, the clients, everybody remembered it. Okay, and they were like taken aback with the story, and they found the solution so enriching, and they felt that no, this is exactly the solution we want to bring about in our team and in our organization. So I would say storytelling is the crux of any solution, and the way you presented it, the way you properly showcase it to people, that's the way. And the amount of empathy, it's basically how they relate to it. So I would say it's a good mixture of all emotions coming together when you're doing the art of storytelling, especially as your solution. And I would say there's no hit formula there. If you make it relatable, if you make it real, and if your personas are crafted really well, it's just going to go and hit the mark.
Hey, did you know BCG was rated a best company for women or best consulting company for women in 2020 as determined by anonymous reviews left on Fairy God Boss? Wow, interesting. I'm sure that the entire demonstration would have been much more impactful, for the client to understand the solution bit rather than just making a PowerPoint presentation. So that's an excellent idea. In fact, Asmina, what's really interesting about our conversation is right since the start, you've been using the word technology. And as the internet becomes more image and animation oriented, the dependence on illustrations to fill the white space and add character to their apps and web pages has also grown. In fact, it has emerged as simple, scalable tool for many companies, including like say Facebook. The question that I have is, how does a particular aesthetic achieve a global presence quickly, and how can designers utilize this as an advantage?
Yeah, so once you mentioned Facebook, like that's a little dicey because we talk about internet, we talk about engaging people, we talk about filling voids basically. So I would say you really don't have to fill voids, or you don't really have to fill empty spaces with jargon. A random imagery or a random messaging absolutely never works. So I've seen, like, sometimes you really have these fancy apps and you have these illustrations force fitted. I'm like, does even this illustration make any sense? It doesn't sometimes. And you're just trying to fill up that real estate to make it look pretty. So trust me, make it more and more relevant, make it more and more towards your story and towards your messaging. What is it that messaging you're trying to say is what you need to do? Okay. And today I would say when you're talking about Facebook, you persuasive design is very good, but you have to make it more humane than human. We're not trying to persuade humans here to more clicks or more excitement, but you have to make it more human, and you're absolutely necessary. I have seen sometimes, like, we talk about animations or videos or illustrations, but I've sometimes seen that typography has just made a great story. I've come across websites, I'm talking about 5 years back, where typography played an important role, where typography just set the message and it made the person read and engage with the, I would say, the portal. So I would say, don't try and get into a trend and try to pick it up. And just because everybody's using illustrations, you should use it. Just because everybody's using a video, you should use it. Try and understand what is the message you're trying to say, what is it that you're trying to reach out to, and what is that emotion which you're trying to connect to your audience with. That is important. And once you understand that emotion, then I would say the medium does not count.
Wow, very beautifully put together. I have a question here, Asmina. Can you talk to us about a product, about a service, or a platform that you've come across which has used all of these things in a very beautiful way? And an example that really excites you and catches your attention?
I would say a product which I would say, if you can identify, I would say the Coke video. I'm sure everybody must have seen the Middle East Coke video where the crown turns into currency and gives a person a call. Have you guys seen that Coke video?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's a beautiful campaign.
Yeah, so I would just say that's more than enough. It just related, it gave the right message. It did not ask you to drink Coke. It did not ask you to go buy that bottle of Coke or said that, oh, Coke is wonderful. No, it understood, it tried to understand the pain point. It created Coke a currency. And definitely, like, it's a subliminally the person is going to go buy a Coke bottle, to get that crown as currency, and it did the charm, right? So I would say exactly, if you start thinking and if you start understanding what's the emotion you're trying to capture and what is the need you're trying to fulfill, I'm sure the story will fall in place.
Absolutely. In fact, Coke has been my favorite example in classroom and multiple campaigns, whether it was the
Yeah.
friendship, the bottle opening campaign, whether it is the last customer campaign. They've just gone out and so beautifully involved the customers in their communication, and so beautifully actually communicating their positioning in terms of how Coca-Cola helps in spreading happiness around you.
Yeah, so they stuck by their, I would say, their brand word, like opening happiness, right? And that's exactly what they did. They forgot that, I'm selling Coke. They did not need any celebrities to sell their Coke. So it's that simple.
Interesting. Asmina, breakthroughs come from reimagining problems and not from creating an incrementally better solution to a well understood challenge. In fact, it's important to discover the underlying why of consumer behavior and not just focus on the what part of it. The question that I have for you is, how can designers look at the challenges differently to find out the real motivators of consumer behavior?
I would say empathy, empathy, and empathy. Okay. Empathy is a huge word. I would say people can take it very easily also, but it's all about empathy. And I would say, just segueing from the Coke example, there are many more such examples on YouTube. If you see, there's a group of called Fun Theory. Even they have come up with some amazing projects where they have just identified the problem and then gone ahead and created solutions. Like, I don't know whether if you know about the Fun Theory where they use the staircase as a piano.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, it's a
Yeah.
campaign supported by Volkswagen.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say, that's again, like, I would say I just love those videos, especially where they've used the, I would say, the signal as a way to make people put garbage in the bin, or use the staircase. And all of this is exactly where you get into the consumer behavior and the real motivators. And it's empathy. I would say empathy is a very easy word to understand. Oh, I empathize with you. But it's not that. You actually need to go and do that research. You have to go and talk to people. You need to listen to them. You need to understand what they have. I've often come across, like, I do have a lot of designers in my team, and when I've asked them to do, say, personas or journey maps, at times they've come with their own biases, and they've come up, like, the first draft would always be a biased draft, where they've hypothetically created personas because they don't have the time to go to the ground and research. And what they do is, okay, this is my persona, and these are the pain points, this is the character, this is the needs, this is aspirations. I get, oh, okay, fine. And then when you go into the journey map and you realize that all the problems are listed in the journey map, so you've tried to ideate so much that you've put in so many pain points in that person's journey that it does not look real. So to just actually get to the consumer behavior, you really need to do that ground service. You really need to grow on that ground, talk to people and understand the issues. And the issues are not very too many. Trust me, there might be one or two pain points which they're talking about, and that needs to be taken care of. And when you hear several such pain points and when you culminate into a big problem, that is a problem you need to solve. You do not need to solve each and every problem on each and every pain point. And that is something which you really, really need to listen. Really need to go and actively talk to real people and not come up with biased or hypothetical or researched Google, I would say, personas.
Well, that's a really interesting thought, Azmina. In fact, I've been teaching marketing since so many years, and we've been talking about consumer behavior. But it's very interesting and exciting to know that, hey, the word empathy, which is right at the heart of it, isn't defined in the consumer behavior books. In fact, the question that I have for you before we proceed ahead is, how would you define empathy as?
I would say empathy is not something which I start relating it with my problem. Empathy is active listening, is what I would say. I came across, like, there was a project which I was doing a couple of years back, where I went we actually, the bunch of our designers went all across India. We went to various states in India. And since I understand Gujarati, I'd gone to Gujarat. Okay, and we were like all bobbing up with a lot of ideas. Oh, we should do this, we should do that, we've got a great project, we've got a great brand, we should just change the world for them and all of that. When I actually went and spoke to people, they were like, it was a telecom guy, a telecom client, and the people were not bothered about neither the service neither the network. They were just bothered about, can I get a 40 rupee recharge? Okay. And we were like, seriously? And then we went to another person, and that was like, can I get a 20 rupee recharge? So this was a telecom guy, company which I was working with. And we realized that, oh shit, we were talking about changing the world and changing the plans and changing everything for them, increasing bandwidth, this, that. All they are asking is a recharge, which is of a lower value. Okay. And that's exactly where I say empathize the right way. If you just listen to them, your empathy would be right. Yeah. Don't come with ideas to impress, or don't come with ideas to push in, through the solution. Just listen and solution. And that would take care of things.
Wow, that's beautiful way of expressing this with an apt example. In fact, moving ahead, Azmina, design is an integral part of every domain: banking, healthcare, media, and the list can go on. Designers have always pushed the profession into more humanitarian causes by using design thinking to solve various problems, including social issues as well. They have started to abandon commercial work to do projects that help humanity. What are your views on this, and do you see this as an evolving trend?
I would say yes, absolutely. I would say an evolving trend. I won't probably comment on that because I don't know how the technology moves, how the world moves, and how the economy moves. But at a personal level, is the most gratifying thing to do. Like, if I can create impact at the grassroots level or at a social level where I see people's lives changing within the society which I'm living in, that's the most gratifying thing. And today it's all about experience economy, it's all about circular economy, how each one starts feeding into each one and benefiting each one. So I would say a lot of people are not fan of circular economy, but I feel circular economy is what the Swiggies and Zomatos and all of them are doing, right? And that's exactly where I would say that yes, socially it's great, like you're helping humanity at a social level, but a very very commercial app like Swiggy is also helping humanity at level. So sometimes I would say there is a, even if it's something commercial attached to it, try and see how, I would say, there is a, in human centered design there is something called, whom are you displacing, whom are you benefiting, right? So there are these concepts which you use when you're design thinking at that level. So I would say at every level when you are designing, even it can be banking, healthcare, media, whatever you're doing, you know try and see what are the people who are going to get displaced out of it, and who are the people who are going to benefit out of it. Okay, and if you have that balance in your head, be it social, be it humanity, just try to make sure that there's a balance there. And if you're creating a solution, try and keep it, I would say, equal.
In fact, Azmina, I just wanted to bring another angle to you. Does this question also arise because today we are talking about purpose driven brands? In fact, purpose being the most important P of, the four P's of marketing?
I would say every brand should have a purpose, right? So I don't understand which brand would not want to have that. So I would say, which brand would say I'm not purpose driven? So I would say absolutely every brand should have their purpose, and every brand should have a give back to the society from whom we are benefiting. And yeah, it should be, yeah, I would say it should be the fundamental of every brand. And that's how the world should move, because yes, trust me, we're not getting into a better world anymore with the global warming and the way the things are going. So it's better that we take few steps back and think back and do something back for the society.
Absolutely. And the pandemic showed this to us in a beautiful way.
Absolutely, that was, like, I would say, it was a pause for everybody to think. So I call it the pause for a cause.
Hey, did you know BCG is ranked number one on Walt's list of the best consulting firms to work for in Asia Pacific? In fact, moving ahead, Asmina, the pace of the marketplace and consumer expectations are rising, emphasizing instant gratification and increased personalization as well. Yet, the heritage, predictability, and ideology of the brand remain the same. The question that I have is, how can we manage a brand with the agility and flexibility to deliver an exceptional experience when the brand management capabilities evolve at a completely different pace?
I would just say that, because it's very simple. I would say, okay, your last best experience is what you're expecting out of all of your other, I would say, experiences. So I would say, like, if I've had a great experience from, say, a particular brand, I'm expecting the same experiences from everybody, right? And that becomes my benchmark. So it's like an ever evolving thing where you have to constantly keep abreast with competition. You have to keep abreast with the type of experiences the other brands are giving, and trying to create better and better and better. But it's a mad chase, trust me. So emphasizing on instant gratification or personalization, I would again say, and I'll reiterate myself, it's about being relevant. Okay. So, what is your brand? How relevant are you? And at what level are you going to touch a chord with your consumers? Okay. And what is it that you're going to touch chords? Like today, just getting things viral, just making news, how long and how far will it be lived? Is what I'm trying to understand here. So yes, viral things are great. Gives a instant understanding, instant brand recall value. But then I'll remember only Mona Singh and probably I might not remember the product also. So I would say, okay, I would just say that don't get into creating viral things, because trust me, I've created a lot of viral videos when I used to do digital marketing. Okay. And people have remember the story, but people have forgotten the product. Personalization also, I would say personalization, gratification, like I would say cred is a great example where, I got excited, I downloaded the app. 2 days I felt really great. Okay, it was personalized, my credit cards were getting paid, oh, I was getting some money back. There was a lot of gamification happening there, and I was like hooked on for 2 days. Third day I went back to my comfort zone. Yeah. So I would say it started feeling useless to me. This is my experience. I'm not belittling the brand. It's doing some great work. A lot of people are absolutely loving it. But I felt like, yeah, it's another game. It's another 5 points more, and might as well just go to bank and pay my credit card. You know. So I would say it depends how much personalization is good and how much gamification is good, and is it absolutely required.
Absolutely. In fact, well said in terms of how do we engage with a brand, how high is the brand recall? Very beautifully put by you. In fact, moving ahead, Azmina, differentiation is a synonym of design, and design strategy helps in achieving differentiation. It diverges substantially, exploring all kinds of ideas, and then brings analytical tools to evaluate the potential of the ideas created. How can designers define intertwined experiences between brands and peers to deliver memorable moments for the end user?
Now that's a tricky one, I would say, because I would say you're talking about a lot of stakeholders here. Yeah, and I would say, how do you bring in, when you're talking about diverging and converging of ideas? I would say you definitely need to bring in, uh, you know, a lot of stakeholders when you're actually creating those solutions. You have to bring in all the stakeholders together and create that feasibility and impact, typically what you do in design thinking, and also see these ideas which I'm coming up with, how feasible, how impactful they are from various stakeholder perspectives. It could be just a regular consumer, to the IT guy, to the backend guy, to the CEO, to the marketing officers, to the CFO, to CMO, all of them. So ideally, what we do is, when we do design thinking and we're trying to create and craft experiences, we definitely want to have a lot of stakeholders there, because when you're doing the ideation sessions, you definitely have, like, a bundle of ideas, some really crazy and some really practical and some very low hanging fruits which you can immediately implement. So I would say that feasibility and impact grid, which you typically try to create with all the stakeholders together, and getting all of their alignments together when you're creating that solution, is absolutely important. Yeah, I've seen that, I come up with great ideas, but sometimes I go to the IT guy and says, sorry, this is not possible, because our backend is structured like this, and we are sitting on this platform, and the server restrictions are these. So your ideas all go for a toss, right? So I would say, like, when you're ideating and when you're in those design thinking sessions, make sure you have all your stakeholders and the right stakeholders.
Absolutely. And in fact, while you were talking about the IT guy, my next question comes from there. Design has continually bridged the divide between business and technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, machine learning, and so many others. How do we merge technological viability, design sensitivity, and organization planning to innovate something extraordinary?
That's exactly what I just said. You just need to bring all your stakeholders there. Okay, I would say that yes, AI, blockchain, machine learning, these are all fancy words and which we all use it. But it's all about, like, where did machine learning come from? Machine learning came up from the various ideas which we wanted. We've always felt like, I hope there was something which you could track this and would can monitor this, and there you made machine learning. Where did blockchain come from? Can I know the story behind how the entire journey was? And that's where your blockchain came up with. And what was AI? AI was just being intuitive, right? So I would say AI, blockchain, machine learning, all are these things which were embedded and great within us. And these came up with various design thinking. I would say not just with design thinking, but various needs which we wanted. And we started crafting solutions for those needs. And exactly when you're saying the technology viability, design sensitivity, organizational planning, and innovative something innovating something extraordinary, it's all would culminate when you have all the stakeholders together and working towards that big idea.
In fact, my extended bit to that question, Azmina, is what are the most desired skills one must have to compete with these technologies?
To be very honest, I'll come back to the word empathy. Okay, machines are dumb. Machines are only churning out things what is fed inside. Okay, today AI or blockchain or machine learning, where did it spring from? It came from our needs, our pain points. And because of our pain points, we started creating those algorithms and we started creating those solutions. And where did these pain points come from? Because I had empathy and I wanted to create something out of it. So I would say you just have to be a guy or a person who's deeply enrooted with empathy, I would say, and somebody who understands the solution, the problem, like has a good listening ear, listens, tries to ideate. And yeah, if you have that sensitivity and if you're just not robotic, you have to have that, I would say, that sense, and that is something which you need. I would say the sensorial, you have to be more sensorial than solution oriented, and you need to have empathy, and that's the biggest plus we have brains, they don't.
Wow. And that is a solid lead towards, my last question, Azmina, is we coined the term designeering at Avantika University, which is our base ideology that we operate on, the blended approach of design as well as engineering. The question that I have is, where do you see design and technology blend in your field and your processes?
I would say design engineering is a fantastic word. I already told you need to definitely trademark it because I absolutely fell in love with the word design engineering. And I would say it's not something where I would start using it. It has been used forever. It is just that now we are defining it. Okay, there is something like just give an example. Like there was something called a web designer long back, and the web designer did everything from UX to UI to development. Okay, everything front end, everything was taken care by that web designer. And slowly people started creating demarcations. Okay, this is UX, this is UI, this is interaction, and this is front end. And that's where you had your various divisions. I would say design engineering has always been happening. There was always, I would say, what was design? It was engineering. It was solution engineering, and that's exactly what was happening. And it's just like now we're defining it, and we're at a stage where we're saying that yes, engineering and design is married together, but it was always married. Yeah, technology was always the base of design. Yeah, and I would say I'm talking about design, which is digital, and technology was always there. From I would say, I don't know. I'm talking about anything. You pick up a product, you pick up a service, it was always with technology. So I feel that engineers are designers and designers are engineers. It is just that some chose to go deeper into another science and some chose going in another science, like the front end part of the science and the back end part of the science. But at the helm of it, I would say it's always each one is an engineer or each one is a designer.
Wow, that's a beautiful conversation, Azmina. How I wish we could continue this conversation for longer. It is one of my most meaningful experiences while recording the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this with us.
And I would say thank you for making me think with these questions. Often, in your day to day rut, you're so caught up with your work and your stuff and your management and your leadership and all of that. Asking these thought provoking questions actually made me think back and also, reflect that, what's the journey of a designer? What's the purpose of a designer? And how one could probably grow. So I would say thank you for your time and making me part of this journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed our show. Do write to us on ads@avantika.edu.in. We look forward to your opinions, feedbacks, and suggestions of speakers you would like us to host on this show. Do tune in our channel next week on Wednesday for a new story on Hubhopper or wherever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.